Hello there. Um, Take two, as it were. Um, it is Sunday, July 7th, about 2:31 in the afternoon. Um, as I said, I'm going to try and do these videos here on Sunday afternoons. It's a little bit easier for me to work around because honestly, I try doing them on Fridays, and by the time I get home most Fridays, I don't want to do anything. So it's kind of hard for me to do it then. While I am generally off on weekends, I do work some Saturdays. Uh, Sometimes a whole day if I've missed a day during the week. Sometimes, if it's available, I'll go in for some overtime. So I'm losing part of my Saturday. Uh, but I generally just avoid working Sundays, not for any real reasons, just it's Sunday and I don't feel like working Sundays. So uh, going forward, we'll be doing them on Sundays. Means we'll be getting them on YouTube a little bit later in the day, but I don't think that'll be a problem. A little bit of a progress report. I worked a little bit this week on the first drafts of the semi sequel to Brianna and the Three, currently titled "An Essence of Dichotomy." Um, I call it a semi sequel because while it doesn't concern Brianna Pandora directly, it does involve her brother Sean Crow, and why they have two different last names will be explained in the story. Actually, it's also explained in Brianna and the Three, but that's beside the point. Um, I also worked a bit on the fast fading light, so both of those kind of moved forward, and I also worked a bit on well, it had been titled "To See Beyond the Veil," and I just retitled it to "Behind the Veil," and I worked a bit on that also. So that's coming along. And finally, this week, I also finally managed to make some headway on making a cover for Stranger. So once that's finalized, I'll get some pictures of that up on the various social media sites to get some feedback on that. Uh, I was a little puzzled about what to talk about this week. I don't, as I've said before, I don't really script these out. I do them completely off the top of my head, which is why sometimes you'll see me just stop as I'm trying to get my thoughts together. I was thinking of talking about the third of the collections, uh, a bright symmetry, but maybe we'll do that next week. This week, however, there's a question that comes up every now and again. Uh, a little bit of a story first. I've spent about half my life working in retail, in various companies, various stores, various positions. Um, in For a while, uh, I worked for Home Depot, and I would bring one of my notebooks in and write on my lunch break, because we had pretty much an hour for lunch, so I was able to sit and take my time. I'd also, I had an iPad at the time. It was before smartphones, so I had my iPad and my iPod, excuse me. I'd sit there and have my headphones on, and I'd write until it was time to go back to work. Um, and you would think that if you saw somebody sitting there with headphones on, leaning over a notebook, that maybe they don't want to be disturbed, but apparently this was too much for one of my coworkers, because out of the corner of my eye I see her walk up and start talking to me, even though obviously I've got my headphones on and I can't hear her. So pause the iPhone, put the pen down, pause the iPhone, took out my headphones, and I asked what she needed. She looked at my notebook and said, "What are you writing?" To which my reply was, "I'm writing a novel." And then she got this really confused look on her face and asked, "Why?" So after a minute, I responded with my favorite Isaac Asimov quote. This is one that I've pretty much taken to heart. I write for the same reason I breathe, because if I didn't, I would die. And she got this really confused look on her face as she walked away from me, which is pretty much the reaction I wanted. Now, it's a question though that I've gotten many times before. Why write? Why are you writing? Aside for another version of it is, why are you working? I had somebody ask me once at a call center that I worked in, if I was a published author, why was I working there? And so this leads me to talk about some things along those lines. First, I'm going to go with the second one first. Why was I working a regular job if I was a published author? Because people out there seem to think that just because someone's a published author, bam, they've got money coming in hand over fist. And I've tried numerous times to explain to people that it doesn't work that way. That most authors don't make a living off their royalties or off their sales. Most writers do have to work a regular job, and it's a sad fact of life that that you can't make a living at writing. I mean, I'm looking into a few freelance writing things, but as a fiction writer, unless your name rhymes with Stephen King, you're really not going to make it without long number of years of work and struggle. Now, it is well within the realm of possibility that you could be someone like a J.K. Rowling, for example, and just at the right time write the right novel and get it published at just the right time, that it catches the public attention and shoots to the top of the bestseller list, and you go from being in poverty to being a millionaire. It happens. It's just very rare. I think it's like 99% of all authors don't have that happen to them. But it also brings up another point. If you're writing for money, then maybe you're writing for the wrong reasons, because you're probably not going to get rich making good art, as Neil Gaiman would say. You're probably not going to. Again, it's a sad fact of life. So I don't write primarily for money. I write because I love writing. I love telling these stories, and I want to share them with people. And well, if I let me put it this way: if I was financially stable enough that I could do it, yeah, I'd make the books free. It's like, here you go. But I can't. But again, it's not why I'm primarily writing. I'm primarily writing, as I said, because I like to tell stories, and I have an active imagination, and I want to share it with people. But let's be honest, I wouldn't mind making a buck or two off of it every now and again. That'd be nice. Um, God, that sounds that sounds terrible, doesn't it? When I sit down to write, I'm not thinking about where it's going to sell. I'm thinking about um, telling the best story I can. And if I make anything off it, that's great. And now getting over to the back to the first question, why write? Um, I find that a lot of people who don't do anything creative, who don't have this creative leaning, can understand exactly what drives you to do it. I have no idea what drove me to start writing. As I've said, I have an active imagination. I always have. I mean, when I was a kid, yeah, I would always play with the toys I got for Christmas and my birthday, but I would have more fun playing with the boxes because the boxes would allow me to would force me to use my imagination more. And one day I just started writing. I was watching Space 1999, a British television show from the 70s, and just started writing. And before you ask, no, as I've said before, those fan fictions don't exist anymore. They were destroyed in the house fire. Don't ask. They're gone. Which is not to say I have anything against fan fiction. I spent about 2 years writing Farscape fan fiction, so I got nothing against fan fiction, but you're never going to see the Space 1999 ones that I wrote. Um, so, um, unless you've done something creative and it's gotten in your blood and you need to do it, where it's not just a point of I want to do it, I have to do it. Um, even if it's even if it's just a few words, and it's not just writing; it's any creative endeavor with writing, painting, sculpture, um, Legos, even. It doesn't matter. Photography, it doesn't matter. If you do it, if you get to the point where you love doing it, where it brings you some fulfillment, where it brings you joy, or as I've said, the only time I'm truly happy is when I'm writing. So, and that's reason enough for it. Do it first and foremost for the doing, for the act of creation, for the act of channeling these people's lives from um, from this nebulous place in your mind down to the page and onto the computer screen. Um, if you are not enjoying yourself, then find something else. There was a time ages ago when I was just starting out where I wasn't enjoying myself. It wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. It was like really hard homework every day. So I was on the verge of giving up, and then I had someone explain to me that stop trying, stop pushing, just relax and let it go. And now I'm to the point where I try and write every day, but if I miss a day, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm not going to hate myself. Missing a day is not bad. Sometimes you have to. I mean, I work in a call center, and there are days after a day of taking calls, I don't even want to cook dinner when I get home. I just want to just crawl into bed and pretend the day didn't happen. But you have to do it, and you carry on. You have other people say, "Well, I don't have time to write." It's like, Okay, let's look at this. I live alone. Um, there is nobody else here. There's nobody I could say, "Hey, honey, can you do me a favor? Do you mind doing the food shopping so I can work on this scene?" No, I can't do that. I have to do everything myself. So that's why I have a very regular routine for actually most days, but particularly the Monday through Friday work days. Um, by 10 o'clock every night, whatever it is I'm doing has to be finished so that from 10 o'clock to midnight I can write, and then midnight I'm in bed. Um, usually if I work until 6:30. If I come straight home, usually by about quarter after seven, 20 after seven, I'm home. Then I get dinner. Then I change out of my work clothes, and um, then I get dinner going. So generally, depending on what I'm making, I can usually get it cooked pretty quickly because usually I eat a lot of fish, and fish doesn't really take all that long. Um, so, um, and then I spend some time on the computer, and then like I said, by 10 o'clock I start writing. So basically, you just find what works for you and carve that time out. I try to get up early every morning also, but I'm not a morning person, and sometimes it's very, very hard to drag myself out of bed and focus on writing while I'm waiting for the coffee to brew. So I'm going to keep this one a little short. I just got to notice that the battery on my phone is getting low. Um, so we're going to close this up for now. Remember, all the books are on sale for the month of July on Smashwords. Smashwords only. I'm sorry. Links to my Smashwords page will be down below. Also, uh, the you can get to that through my website. Smashwords tab on my website will take you straight to my author page. Uh, all the books are 50% off through Smashwords until July 31st. If you do buy any of the books, uh, please leave a review on Smashwords or on Goodreads as well. And I don't care, good, bad, or indifferent. At this point, every little bit helps. Uh, but with that in mind, I'm going to just say bye, and remember, each of us is the hero of our own stories and the villains of someone else's. See you next week, guys. Bye.